Welcome, patient hearts who know that the most unforgettable romances don't explode in a moment but glow, ember-soft, beneath the passing years. Welcome home, to your refuge of whispers and wonder. You're on Turkish series stars. Today, what we're about to unfold feels nothing short of earth-shifting. Set aside every storyline you've memorized, every timeline you thought was official. Tonight, one of Turkey's most magnetic yet guarded leading men peeled off the armor of silence and let us see the pulse beneath. Yes, Akın stood under the lights of an elegant evening and chose not to talk about premieres or projects. He chose to talk about her. About Ebru. And with a candor that caught even the cameras off guard, he redrew the starting line of their story. He spoke of something that happened not yesterday, not last season, but 2 years ago. A seed sown in quiet, a chance missed that turned into destiny, a first impression that hid its true face, and a love that waited for its hour like a patient star waiting to be seen. Before we turn the key to this time-locked room, give this investigation of the heart a little lift, tap like if you trust in timing, subscribe so you never miss what the spotlight won't reveal, and if you want the closest seat to the stage, the join button is your velvet pass. Ready to step back to the moment everything truly began? Then come with me. The revelation didn't arrive with a drumroll. It slipped in like a summer storm at a seemingly routine gala, crystal glasses chiming, sequins whispering on silk, the sort of evening where answers are usually disguised as polite smiles. Akın, refined as ever, paused beside the velvet rope and faced the microphones that bloom like iron roses in front of a star. The press expected safe talk, crafted lines, a deflection here and there. Instead, there was quiet, and in that quiet, a decision. Maybe it was the assurance of a man certain of his feelings, or the instinct to honor the woman at his side rather than feed the rumor mill. Whatever the spark, he didn't dodge. He stepped forward. He didn't speak about box office or awards. He spoke about Ebru. And then, the moment that sent editors scrambling and timelines toppling. Their story didn't begin when we thought it did. Everyone imagines we crossed paths on a project and fell the way characters do under a boom mic, he said, voice steady but eyes bright. But the truth goes back further. 2 years ago, we found ourselves in the same orbit. Our lives were heading in different directions then, yet we noticed one another. 2 years. 2 years reshapes everything. It transforms a neat, cinematic meet-cute into something far richer. The type of beginning that hides itself in the space between glances, in the hush after a crowded room, in the middles of stories that haven't recognized their own beginnings yet. It wasn't a love born from choreography and call sheets. It was a quiet mark left on a day that no one labeled special. A seed pressed into soil and left to brave the seasons. And in revealing that, Akın showed us not an actor's perfect moment but a man's honest memory. He went further, pulling back the last veil on his first impression of Ebru. We tend to imagine that men who are adored by millions spend their lives immune to doubt. We assume they glide through rooms, confident that the gaze they want will be returned. But Akın didn't paint that picture. He described the first time his eyes met hers. She was still, almost distant, a calm that didn't ask to be decoded. And in that calm, he felt small. I thought, she's not going to look my way, he admitted. Not as a line to tug at hearts, but as a truth that made his breath hitch even now. She felt unreachable, not because she was cold, but because she guarded her warmth like a treasure. If you've watched Ebru, you know this makes perfect sense. She doesn't chase the room chases her. She has always been a lesson in restraint in an era of oversharing, a woman who would rather carry her grace in silence than barter it for noise. What might be mistaken for aloofness became, in time, a portrait of strength. And that strength, Akın said, is the shelter where their love learned to breathe. The glare of attention that adorns a star is no place for a relationship to grow. It needs shade. It needs gentleness. In choosing to protect their private life, they rendered their bond not fragile but precious, as if every shared moment was a jewel kept out of greedy hands. But how does a glance from across a room become a home? Here enters the wisest character in every love story, timing. After that quiet, magnetizing first encounter, they moved on. For 2 long years, they lived their separate chapters. They changed. They gathered joys and bruises. They learned who they were without knowing they were preparing to be seen by the only person who needed to see them. Some people leave a trace on your life even before they truly enter it, he reflected. And then, as if a novelist were rearranging scenes from above, mutual friends rewove the threads. The second meeting wasn't a repeat, it was a revelation. They talked, really talked, until the night seemed to lean in to listen. Not about trivialities but about their actual lives, the weight of expectations, the balance of craft and self, the loneliness that can slip into even the most glittering rooms. In that conversation, the missing piece finally found its corner. It all became clear, Akın recalled, the smallest smile touching his mouth. At that second meeting, something settled. It felt like time had been polishing us for that moment. He didn't describe fireworks. He described recognition, the quiet certainty that feels more enduring than any dramatic gesture. It wasn't performance. It was the end of searching. And then, the internet did what it does best, it amplified the feeling. Comments poured in like petals, not praising outfits or styling, but saluting the depth of the revelation. "This is how real love sounds," someone wrote. "A story that whispers and still shakes the room," said another. Ebru's reserve became the headline everyone hadn't known how to write until now. She wasn't leveraging a spotlight, she was shielding a flame. In a culture that rewards noise, her quiet became rebellious, elegant, powerful. She showed that you can be the heart of the story without turning your life into a set piece. Timing, you see, doesn't ask our permission. It simply asks for patience. How many of you have met someone at the wrong hour? How many of you stepped away only to find the same eyes again, years later, when you were finally able to see? Their story suggests that the clock is a co-author. It writes in the margins. It waits for us to catch up to our own lines. If something is meant to be, it often chooses the path of most meaning, not the path of least resistance. Let's circle back to that first impression, the distance that almost scared him off. Think about how many romances never take their first breath because someone mistakes reserve for indifference. He said it himself, "I thought she wouldn't look my way." How many love stories remain unwritten because of that fragile fear? Fortunately, fate is stubborn. It will loop back when both hearts are ready to hear each other's volume. At their second crossing, he looked again and saw not a wall but a horizon. Behind Ebru's quiet was ambition, discipline, compassion, a mind that asked precise questions and a heart that answered with clarity. Suddenly, their values stood side by side like matching notes in a melody neither had been able to hum alone. Purpose aligned with purpose, expectation with expectation, tenderness with tenderness. Attraction sparked, yes, but it was alignment that sealed it. And to colleagues, to strangers, to anyone who has ever wondered if privacy is an affectation, Akın's message was steady: it is not a vanity, it is oxygen. Protecting what's ours made it more valuable, he said, not to boast but to explain. When no audience is waiting for a kiss, a laugh, a stumble, you can stutter and confess. You can show the loneliness and let it be held. You can be a whole person, not a persona. In that shelter, he isn't Akın Akinozu, the star. He is a man who once believed the woman who moved him most might never see him. She did see him. And more than that, she chose him in private before the world ever suspected a scene was unfolding. Now that the curtain has lifted on the true beginning, we're looking at them differently. Not just as a striking pair that turns heads, but as two people who honored the wait. They are not a headline born of surprise. They are a bond tempered by time. The confession changed their public story not by making it louder, but by making it truer. For anyone who feels alone right now, for anyone who stares across a room and doubts, their journey offers shelter. Time is not your enemy, it's your collaborator. 2 years can feel like an ocean, but what if the shore you reach is home? We have reached the last page of tonight's chapter, and what a chapter it has been. One revelation, and suddenly all the pieces arrange themselves differently. Love is patient. First impressions can mislead. The piece you think you lost might simply be waiting in a later scene. If this left a tremor in your heart, if you believe in the miracle of a second chance, give this video a like. Share it with anyone who needs a reason to keep trusting the clock. Subscribe to Turkish series stars and ring the bell, because there are so many hidden tales waiting for their cue. And we'll be here to bring them into the light, gently and honestly. Thank you for listening with your whole heart. Until next time, keep a little faith in the timing that ties two souls together, even when they don't yet know they're walking the same road. And before you drift away, let's linger a little longer with the image that started it all. A crowded room, a calm woman whose silence wasn't frost but focus, a man who recognized something he couldn't explain and worried he might never be enough to be noticed. He was wrong, and thank goodness for that. Because the woman he feared would never look his way did more than look. She understood. She matched his steps. She shaped a sanctuary where their laughter doesn't need an audience and their tears don't need permission. 2 years were not a delay, they were the path. A near miss became a perfect hit, proof that sometimes the universe edits our scenes with a precision we only appreciate once the credits roll on the old version of the story. So if you've been waiting, keep waiting with intention. If you've been quiet, stay quiet with purpose. If the right eyes haven't found yours yet, don't mistake stillness for emptiness. Somewhere, someone who once decided you were out of reach is learning the language of your silence. When your second meeting arrives, you'll both be ready to speak it. And when that day comes, may it feel like this, less like fireworks, more like a key turning in a lock you've carried for years. Because that's what Akın and Ebru found, not a spectacle, but a truth. And truths, once spoken with courage, don't fade. They deepen. They hold. They last.